Hi, this is Leighton Jin. I'm the Director of Development for the American Documentary and Animation Film Festival. We have a great little film, a local film, and for me, a little bit of an inspiring film because it's part of my community. We have Daniel Talbot and Andrew Klaus Vineyard. I hope I'm pronouncing your names right. Forgive me if I did it.
Totally.
And they have a great film called Welcome to the Tool Shed, a very popular establishment here in Palm Springs. I'm going to let you guys talk about the movie and what it's about.
Do you want to start, Andrew, about what it's about?
Yeah, sure. I've gotten used to doing this pitch. We use the tool shed as our jumping off point to kind of introduce you to these patrons who hang out there. And it's really about how we have our first generation of openly, queer senior citizens who, because of coming through the HIV/AIDS years, didn't think they would live to be senior citizens. And so they're really the blueprint for how we meet this moment politically, how we learn about aging, how we kind of bring our community back together in these like really fractured times, and not just survive them but thrive and do so joyously with love and caring and joy. And that's something that's I think we need a reminder of that these days. And so the film is a portrait of these wonderful people in the desert who inspire me every day.
And who have become like chosen family very
Yeah.
quickly to us. Which like we have
Yeah.
this huge new family in the tool shed. It's incredible.
Yeah.
So
I
and
got it. Good.
I mean, the film, like came out of Larry Kramer was someone very important in my life, and his work and his plays, and also just him as a friend and a person. And when he passed, I just kept hearing I kept seeing a lot of disconnect between our queer elders and kind of some of our younger generation. And I know that just Larry's wisdom was so profound and important to me, growing up as a queer person and working in the theater and film as a queer person. And, so it really came out of him and wanting to kind of honor Larry and also get to know the community he came from and fought with during the AIDS crisis, the height of the AIDS crisis. And I kept hearing about, being on the West Coast, I just kept hearing about this bar, Tool Shed, Tool Shed, Tool Shed. Like I kept, and I'm not part of the leather community. And but I feel like I have a lot of family members in the leather community now, especially Rio and Robert, Robert who owns the Tool Shed, who's amazing. And I just kept going like, oh, when everyone was kind of getting decimated by this disease, a lot of people started moving out to the desert. A lot of people who had lost everyone in their life started finding new community at this bar, the Tool Shed. And so we just kept hearing that and it was like, oh, so I bet if we go to this bar, we're going to meet a ton of diverse, wonderful individuals from all over the country and the world who rebuilt their family through this bar. And that's exactly what we found, which was incredible.
I have goosebumps you guys telling this story. I mean, it's just such a beautiful story that you guys are telling. I've lived here for 26 years, and I don't necessarily run that community, but I have friends in that community. And it was funny after I started as a sports writer, and as I afterwards, some of my friends I started finding out whether through social media posts and stuff that had been surviving with HIV or AIDS for several years, and that just inspired me because we're probably the same age. It was a death sentence when he had that diagnosis, and it gave me hope, joy, whatever that they've come through that very difficult period, and they're thriving all these decades later the after it started. So the fact that you guys are doing this story, I think it's amazing. Let's jump into the tool shed. I have a preconceived notion, and we're talking about this off camera. I have this preconceived notion about the tool shed that's wrong. So can you tell me a little bit about the tool shed when you actually got there and what it was like and the mechanics of the bar?
I mean the first story I'll tell is that like I had to pee really bad. And like I was like I drank because we were in the desert, so I was like down in Gatorade. And I went to like, there's two bathrooms. There's a private bathroom and there is this, kind of the urinal trough. So I went to the trough. And within 2 seconds, some wonderful man came up to next to me. And I want to say all of this with it was so funny and not threatening and like joyful, this whole experience. And and I was whizzing, and this guy popped in next to me and kind of pulled his out and started, and he's like, "Can I hold it while you pee?" And I was like, "What?" I'm because it's just not my scene. I was like, I think if you did that, I wouldn't be able to continue to pee. And he started cackling and laughing, and then he told me a joke. It was so not threatening and funny and sex positive and joyful. And I was like, oh, I love this place. I'm not in that scene in that way, but definitely queer and happily queer, but just not part of that scene up until now. And I just found it so instantly welcoming and joyful. And it reminded me of like a Shakespeare, like Festi or something. You know what I mean? He was so witty and funny and disarming. And, I just remember he had a giant orange cock ring on. And I was like, I don't know what is happening here. But it was so much fun. So it made me
Wow.
hella hard. I was like, here we go. So.
Yeah,
Andrew, what
for
was
me,
your first impressions of the tool shed?
yeah, I'm not a big bar person anymore. Certainly spent my 20s and 30s in them, but the thing I love about the tool shed in particular is like it's a dive bar. It's like it's a place where it has regulars and it has different waves of regulars. There are people who come in every morning who are there to have coffee and tea and hang out with their buddies. And then you have like your day drinkers who come in, and then you have your night crowds. So my first impression going in was like, okay, it's a leather bar. I've been to leather bars. But what I didn't expect and what was a nice reminder is that it's not pretentious. It's welcoming. It's not the West Hollywood gay bars that can be, kind of body fascist and like, very intimidating. This was everyone felt welcome. It was like, I jokingly called it, gay cheers not that long ago, because that's kind of what it feels like. Everybody knows, they have people who've been going there for years, so they all know each other, it's what it feels like.
And I feel like they all look out for each other in this really
Yes.
profound way. Like like I witnessed, sometimes someone drank a little too much or whatever, and everybody had their back, made sure they were okay, got them a lift, made sure they get their car keys the next morning. Like it's just a really strong community. And I think, our friend who's in the doc says it best that he's like, look, if my car broke down, I could call, two or three of them to come get me, help me with my car. They'd bring me food, like then we might go home and mess around a little, who knows? But like, like it's just like it's a really joyous, safe space. And I just especially want to shout out Robert who owns it, and Ria, who I think is like the fairy godmother of the whole thing, um, who just like they are the kindest. I literally feel like they're family
Yeah.
instantly. I feel like they would do anything for us. I feel like if I was stuck in Oregon on the side of a road, Robert would get in his damn thing with his dogs and like drive up to Oregon and get me. I just they're so kind and they care so much about our community and the safety of our community. And Robert is like not becoming rich from this bar. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't think you become rich from running a gay leather bar. But he believes in community. He believes in a safe space for our community of all ages, all colors, all binaries, all genders. And he means that. And like he really steps it up with his actions, and he's there all the time. And just like I just was like, I love this man. I love his heart, and I love how much he loves our community, and how he's always thinking about their safety, and installing cameras that most people can't afford to install just to make sure people are safe, and things like that. I just they're incredible. Like I just have so much love and respect, and it's hard for me to imagine that there are people in this country, let's just say this country or this world, that don't like queer people. And I'm like, dude, get to know some because they're the fucking coolest people I know. And like I'm like literally they're awesome, and they're just they're everything I love about what I hope this country was, made for, which is community and family and a chance and equality. And I feel like our community really holds that up. And I feel like people like Robert could not be more, US in a way, if that makes sense.
Well,
Yeah.
when you were talking about the Trough story, the thing that reminds me is that it's free, you're free to talk, you're free, and you're going to be listened to, but not in a judgmental way. We talk about both sides about the cancel culture and stuff like that, but context means a lot. And when you told that story, I was like, I thought it was just funny, but then you also think of that we're all trained these days that on the wrong thing. That's something that could get people canceled, but it's funny, and in the context, it's harmless because, like you said, it was told in a loving way, not a threatening way. And sometimes I
Yeah,
appreciate that.
it was not threatening. Do you know, like
Yeah,
you instantly knew that it was like I could say no, we could laugh about it. I could say yes, we could not laugh about it. Like it was just, it was a really beautiful sex positive space. And it was funny because coming from New York and stuff like that, like my first thought was like, what the fuck is happening? And then, but how it was dealt with, I was like, oh, like, yeah, this is hysterical. Like, it's
yeah,
like, who cares? You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like, it was such a great first moment. And it really felt like it was like the bar saying hi to us in a way.
yeah.
I think
I mean, I think that does kind of capture what Palm Springs is like. Now, the one thing about the tool shed that people who haven't been to Palm Springs, it's off the beaten path a little bit. We have arenas, and you have that strip, and then Indian Canyon's where Oscars is, and so there's a plethora of bars and lounges in the heart of the strip or off the strip in Palm Springs. Tool shed's a little bit off the beaten path. How do you think that changes the dynamic and how it makes it different from the other Palm Springs experience with the gay bars and lounges? Because, um, you know, I have my own thoughts on it, but I kind of want to get your thoughts about it because I think that makes the tool shed a little bit unique. It's a little bit, you know, it is off the beaten path.
Yeah, I think two things that I definitely think of with it is one, it has better parking than arenas.
Yes.
Let's be real. Um, and two, I think there are pluses and minuses with that. I do think it is a little more isolated, which in some ways it makes them feel safer. And sometimes, I think when being harassed, it's a little scarier to be isolated. So I think its location is interesting because it has moments of both of those things. I have never felt unsafe there for a second, but we cover it in the doc. They've been getting, they were getting harassed as soon as the election happened. So that's really scary. And so like when during Pride, the bars and arenas have sort of security that is just comes from the city, whereas Robert pays for the security himself at Toolshed. Um, the first two things that when my first impression of Robert when we first met, our very first time before we had even like solidified the documentary, we were just sort of it was like an idea was two things. One was that he was at the door and he made a comment. We were just chatting with him that he worked the door a lot himself because if anybody came to do any harm, they'd have to go through him first.
Yeah.
And Robert is not a large imposing presence, I'm trying to say this very delicately. He's a petite man, and like he was, adamant about that space is there for you to come and be yourself and relax a little bit, drop some of the stress of the world. And I think that was really important that was so important to him. And I think having that space a little bit away allows for that. It's an older crowd, you know.
Sometimes,
It
sometimes
sometimes it's on the weekends. It's all over the place. It's actually skewing younger on the weekends, and they have amazing events. Like it's a really happening space. I mean, Thursday nights is underwear night. It's 600 people, packed. But I think that it being away gives it a chance to kind of have its own identity and not kind of be a cookie cutter, you know, clone of the other bars.
Something you said about Robert that kind of struck me is, he's at the door working it, even though he's not a big man. But what you guys have said, it strikes me about him. He's a protector
Hmm.
and a father figure. He wants to make sure everyone's safe, and I kind of admire what you said about him because he says it's a safe space. He's at the door to make sure things are going well. And I think that's really commendable what he does to create that space in you know at the bar. I think that's
Yeah.
really amazing.
Yeah.
Um, what I know you've probably met some amazing people, amazing survivors. Is there one that kind of sticks out that you can share without maybe spoiling the film, or should we be careful about that?
No, I mean, like, definitely see I could not choose one. I'm being honest. Like, everyone was so extra. Like, I feel like you could do an individual 2 hour doc about every single person that's in
Yeah.
this film. I'm sad we had so much footage we had to cut down, obviously, because we're doing, a short form doc. And so, like, I literally, you could have done the Rio doc, you could have done like, I mean, you could have done the Bobby doc, you could have done anything. Like, and absolutely madly just in love with, and also proud, like, because, like, a lot of our history as queer people, right now, they're attempting to erase a lot of it. A lot of it has not been recorded. So getting to sit with somebody who's been openly queer since 14, 15 years old, who's now in their 80s, late 80s, and the struggle and the fight, and just, like, it's so funny that, I thought about this a lot, and I'm sure, there's much greater thinkers than I am that have come up with this before, but, like, that we use the word in this culture and in our country, faggot or fairy, as something that is weak. And I'm like, I got to tell you, the faggots and fairies and lesbians and trans people I know are the strongest people I've ever met in my life. They are warriors, what they've had to fight through, what they go through, what they do for their community. Um, just the fight to be authentically themselves is so profound. It's the furthest thing from weak, and they do it with such creativity and laughter and joy and wit and camp and beauty and creativity. And I'm like, they're fucking brilliant warriors in my mind. So I'm like, so I now think of, like, call me a faggot. I think it's the greatest fucking compliment in the world, So I'm like, like, I really am just like, and these people have just solidified that for me, and getting to, like, sit with, again, someone who's just gone through it in such a worse way than I've ever had to go through it, um, who's still smiling and there and showing up for their community and showing up every day at that bar to say hi to their friends and bringing food for each other and bringing, like, like, it's amazing. And like, I don't think there was a day, now I'm gonna get emotional, but, like, that you didn't kind of get emotional through it, that you were like, it's especially with everything going on in the country right now, it's such a brilliant and beautiful reminder of how powerful our community is and how um, exceptional our community is and how proud I am to be a part of it. So, yeah.
The people you focus on, like we said, a lot of them have been carrying this terrible disease for several years, but the technology has changed quite a bit. I feel like I think they're very important bridges to when the outbreak hit and it was a death sentence to right now where it's become something that's manageable with proper medication and care. And I think that's kind of you guys picked some amazing people to focus on. How important is it to tell that story now? Because there's a sense that the fear and the stigma of AIDS and HIV. Now, I mean, I know this is innocent and not quite the right way to say it, but it's not the fearful disease that it was in the 80s to right now. But this story is very important. What do you hope people of this generation takes from their stories and their lives?
Yeah, I think about that a lot. I mean, it is a manageable illness now. It is, and not everyone is HIV positive in the doc. Some of them are survivors who lost everyone around them. And that's an important story to tell. Queer history is so often not documented properly, not archived. It's something that's, transmitted lover to lover. It's love letters. It's a life built behind closed doors when you weren't allowed to be out, and families throw those things away and wash those away, and straight wash history. It's the famous thing, but history will say that we're roommates or good friends. So I think it's really important that we tell our own stories, And I approach this with like a huge sense of responsibility and honor that these people were being so incredibly vulnerable, opening their homes, opening their lives, telling stories that, I mean, we talk about like getting, there was not a day on set where somebody wasn't crying. Like if if Daniel was doing the interview, I would be like behind the scenes like stifling crying, and then like it was the reverse, like whoever was on, just off camera was like trying to hold it together while the rest of the crew was, crying. I remember looking over at Pride with just tears in his eyes while we were talking. Our Pride was one of our cameramen. Um, so it's important to tell these stories because they are human stories. They're not our subjects are queer specific, but like, and these are specific to our community, but we're all a part of the same human community. We're all, all the subjects are American. They're all, they all live in California. They're all, they've been through all of the, generational sea changes for the last, 70, 80 years. We're all headed that way, like we all have to live through this world together. And it's such a reminder about how important love is, how important joy is, how important holding each other together. It's easier to kind of break us apart and tear us down when we get kind of divided and pulled apart. That kind of intra community fighting is kind of intentional. It's something that's happened since the civil right, the early civil rights era was to kind of create division so you can't, have a collective, so you can't unionize and have a collective bargaining power, so that I think that's really, I felt a big responsibility making sure we told these stories as a reminder to these younger people, hey, this is a fight. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And just because we have marriage equality doesn't mean all good. Look, every little thing can be taken away. We've made these massive gains in 10 years.
And also like they're coming for all of it.
Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, they want to cut HIV funding. They just took the pride flag down at Stonewall. We had to put it back up, like which is an illegal act actually. And they're, so like it's, these are people who have been through it. And I feel like sometimes some of my generation and the generation below me, like, you know, have been lulled into thinking, oh, cool, like we've got all these, rights and stuff, like lulled into kind of fun times, and
Mhm.
this administration wants to wipe it out. Like, I mean, they do. I mean, like they just do. That's what their actions are showing. And so, getting to kind of talk to someone who's been through it and in so many different ways, seeing them smile, seeing them kind of create community and make jokes, even though they lost hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of friends to this disease, they still show up in their life and for their community and for us, um, in a sex positive, beautiful, loving, amazing, emotional way. And we have so much to learn from the people who have fought these prior wars, and because we're, I think, going into another one now, and I think we're already there. And um like I feel like so much stronger from having met these people and ready to kind of face that in a way because of their stories.
Mhm.
It's sad that in this world we're living in right now, we have to go backwards to fight old battles. It's
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
disappointing instead of moving forward. Um, can you talk to me about some of your projects coming up?
A lot, which is good. I
There's
feel
so much you go.
I feel like so
That's
many people
great.
are out of work, and I feel so lucky to have work. So,
I said yesterday I listed everything I was working on to a friend, and I said I don't think it's a flex. I think it's a cry for help. But yeah, Daniel, you go ahead.
yeah, it's like I think it's interesting. Like it's all queer work, which I'm really excited and feel very lucky about, especially because it can be hard to get queer films made and queer TV shows made and stuff like that. But we're creating a television show that we just shot the pilot for called Born Again. Andrew has a film called Parking that's in pre-production. We're shooting a feature. We're making a feature up in San Francisco about queer joy and how that city has just been a sanctuary city and held our community and the diversity of our community in such a profound way. And so I have another television show that I'm working on with a company in Brussels, and also a queer film that I'm working on and with a wonderful director and production team in Denmark right now. So feel really full and really lucky. I'm writing a new film, and just started my company basically. It's called Orphan Andy Films. It's based on the diner in San Francisco where I grew up and in the Castro, and it focuses on queer film and television production, and especially rural voices and voices that are othered and voices that have not kind of not the typical queer films that kind of get fed through the machine in a way. I love those as well. We need those. We need comedies. We need fun. We need, all of that stuff. But yeah, and I love that stuff. But also I want to hear stories from Arkansas, and I want to hear stories from Black transgender kids growing up in the Bronx and how the fuck that works. And like, so I want to hear these other stories too and get behind those. So yeah, so I'm really feel very lucky. We also run, Andrew and I and Javier Fuentes Leon, who's an incredible filmmaker as well, run the Black Hat Cinema Series, which is a monthly queer cinema series that we do in Los Angeles. We have one tomorrow night that Zachary Drucker is hosting. That's called Something Must Break. It's a brilliant trans love story from Sweden. So we do that once a month, which is really cool, and just trying to build community, and especially in the film community.
Well, I appreciate you guys taking the time to talk to me. This has been a really great discussion, and I'm really looking forward to the film. And like I said, uh, I'm not necessarily part of the community, but I am part of the community because I love Palm Springs. I love what Palm Springs stands for, and I love what they stand for, which is survival against tremendous
Yeah.
obstacles.
It's an
And
oasis,
Yeah.
yeah, and inspiring. And so I really appreciate you guys doing the story, sharing this wonderful part about Palm Springs. And we'll see you guys both at the festival, of course, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
Well, I'm
definitely.
excited to have you guys out here. It would be great to meet in person,
Yeah.
and then to actually catch the film. So thank you both for joining me today. I'm going to remind everyone the American Documentary and Animation Film Festival is March 25th to 29th at the Palm Springs Cultural Center. I forgot, but please tell me the day of your film.
The 27th at 4 p.m. in Theater One, and we're part of like an LGBTQ plus block of documentaries and animation, and can't wait. So 4 p.m. on the 27th, please come.
Happy hour.
We'll all hang after at the tool shed.
There you go. There you go. Hey, maybe they'll throw a film party. That'd be awesome.
We're
Thank
working
you
on it.
both for
We're
joining me.
Working on it. Thank you.
Andrew, Daniel, thank you so much for joining me today. And we look forward to seeing more of your work. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
so much.